In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with Liver of Sulfur to achieve a patina that looks like this on your jewelry. In this video, we're going to be using copper wire, sterling silver, and yellow brass so that you can see the effect of Liver of Sulfur on all three of these materials. Before we begin our project, let's go over safety procedures when working with Liver of Sulfur. Item number is LS600. Liver of Sulfur can be a harmful substance if used incorrectly. Always make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area. We are actually right now out in the warehouse because we can't do this technique inside of our video room. Preferably do Liver of Sulfur outdoors. If you have to be inside, make sure that you have all of your windows open and have a fan. Always make sure that you wear gloves because Liver of Sulfur is a mild acid. You don't want to ingest, inhale any fumes, or get Liver of Sulfur on your skin. However, if you get a drop of it on your skin, you can quickly neutralize this acid with a paste made up of baking soda and water. Refer to the MSDS sheet that was included with your Liver of Sulfur shipment for further details. To be safe, make sure that you have a pair of safety goggles. We sell these. The item number is SJ030. Make sure that you're wearing short sleeves and any excess jewelry should be removed. Also, if you have long hair, that needs to be tied back too. In addition to our safety items that we already have, we're also going to be using 3 plastic containers. One of these will hold hot water, another one will hold hot water and our Liver of Sulfur, and another one will have baking soda and hot water to work as our base to neutralize our material after we're done putting it in the Liver of Sulfur. We also have paper towels to clean off our material after we give it our baking soda bath. 2 plastic tweezers. This item number is WA310, and these are plastic tweezers that are used in our watch repair. These plastic tweezers will be used to actually hold the item as we're dunking it into the Liver of Sulfur and into the baking soda bath. Don't use metal. If a metal tool is used to hold onto the jewelry as you're dipping it into the Liver of Sulfur, the Liver of Sulfur will affect that tool just as much as it does that piece of jewelry that you're dropping into the Liver of Sulfur solution. In addition to those 2 tweezers, I'm also going to be using a plastic spoon. I also have a small bit of extra fine steel wool here, and this is used to clean off any contaminants that may be on your metal prior to it going into the Liver of Sulfur solution. You can also then use this steel wool again at the end to reveal some of the relief in the metal. I'm going to start off by mixing about 2 tablespoons of baking soda into about a cup of lukewarm water. I'm going to mix this together with a plastic spoon, and then I'm going to set this container off to the side for right now. So I'm going to fill up my first container with fairly hot water. I'm not looking for this to be boiling, and I don't want it to be lukewarm either. I want it to be hot so that any metal that I place in here can warm up to a temperature that the Liver of Sulfur can work effectively on. Now I'm going to set this container off to the side. When you're ready to add the Liver of Sulfur to your container of hot water, make sure that you have your plastic gloves on, and you're handling the Liver of Sulfur with a plastic spoon. Again, no metal. I've picked out a pea-sized amount of the Liver of Sulfur, and I'm quickly going to close the container up and set it out of my reach. Drop the Liver of Sulfur into the hot water and begin mixing. Your water should turn into a light yellow color. You're not looking for a bold yellow color. If you get that, you've mixed in too much. You're also not looking for a light yellow color because it will take too long for it to have an effect on metal. As we said in the beginning, we're going to be working with copper, brass, and silver. We have a control group right here, and this is going to be the group that we're going to subject to the Liver of Sulfur. So, step number 1, into the bath they go. Allow them to sit there for a minute so that they adjust to the temperature of the water, and with pieces this small, it's not going to take that long. So to start, we're going to pick up our sterling silver. Now, notice that I had 2 tweezers. One tweezer will always be with the first container. Our second tweezer will be only designated to our second container. We don't want to cross-contaminate. So I'm just going to remove my spoon and put it down here on a paper towel. Now I'm going to transfer from the first to the second with my tweezer and drop it in there, right into the Liver of Sulfur. This should take less than a minute. Remember, do not stick your fingers into the Liver of Sulfur. So as you see here, the Liver of Sulfur is reacting really quickly on this wire, and where it was once bright, now it's turning to a dull gray black. When I'm happy with the color result, I'm going to drop it into the baking soda quickly, and that will neutralize that sterling silver. Now it's on to the brass. So we're going to pick up our brass, transfer it off to our second tweezers, and then drop that into the Liver of Sulfur. Now yellow brass, like what we're using here, isn't going to turn black like the sterling silver. It's going to turn more into a red, orange, dull yellow looking color. I'm going to shake off this excess liver of sulfur, and then I'm going to drop this wire into the baking soda to neutralize it. And for the last experiment, I'm going to take this piece of copper wire and put it into the liver of sulfur, and the results with this are going to be quick. It goes from bright copper to a really dark, antiqued copper look in a flash. So now that this piece of copper wire is as dark as I want it to get, I'm going to take it out now, and I'm going to set this into the baking soda to neutralize it, just like I did with the other two wire examples. These wires have been in the baking soda bath now for a few minutes, and I can safely and easily dip my fingers into the baking soda bath to pick up the wires to take them out. So now I'm going to place these wires onto a paper towel so that I can dry them off thoroughly. Now let's take a before and after look with all of our wire. So here is the sterling silver wire. This top wire has been untreated, while the bottom one was dipped into the liver of sulfur. And here we have our copper wires. This is the bare copper wire, and then this is the one that was treated with the liver of sulfur. And then last but not least, here are our yellow brass wires. This top wire was not treated with the liver of sulfur, and as usual, the bottom wire is the one that was. The interesting point was that this was the wire that I saw the most color change in. When I put it into the liver of sulfur, it went to this very dull yellow-orange color, and then when I took it out and placed it into the baking soda bath, it turned to a dull yellow with almost a small hint of green to it. Now that you know how the results are going to turn out on what metal you choose to use, let's go for the big time and take one of our Egyptian coil bracelets that we made in a previous video. This is out of bare copper wire. Let's patina this with liver of sulfur, just for fun. Run a little bit of steel wool over the bracelet so that you remove any grease or fingerprints from the material before you start doing your liver of sulfur process. So we're going to drop this into the hot water bath and allow that temperature on the metal to raise up a bit so that the liver of sulfur can better react with it. Now what's nice about these tweezers is that I can grab hold. If you followed along with our Egyptian coil bracelet, you know that one end of our bracelet actually has a closed jump ring on it. So that's what we're going to hold on to with our tweezers. Now I'm going to take it out of this hot water bath and just shake it so that all the excess water is off of it. And then I'm going to drop the end, and just the end of it, into the liver of sulfur. Now this doesn't take very long at all. In fact, as soon as you drop it in, you'll notice that the liver of sulfur starts to work. And it's going to continue to work until you put it into that baking soda bath. So don't think just by removing the piece of jewelry that it's no longer going to patina. Quite the opposite. It's still working until you neutralize it. So now that you see that, I'm going to drop the whole thing in, move it around so that the liver of sulfur can get to all of the areas of the bracelet. Let it sit in there for a couple seconds, and it's really neat to watch. It's going through all sorts of different colors. Let me just set that in there really quick. It's really fascinating to watch. And if you're in a nice, well-ventilated area, there's no problem with you kind of leaning in to watch the process happen. Now I'm fairly happy with this color, so I'm going to drop it into my baking soda bath and just allow it to neutralize. So here's our bracelet, and now I'm just going to pull it out of that baking soda bath and set it onto some paper towels so that I can dry off the metal. Okay, so this is what our bracelet now looks like after being treated with liver of sulfur. I like to put some nice light effects in here to counteract the dark effect that we received with the liver of sulfur. So, just like we did in the first step when we cleaned off our bracelet, we're going to bring out our steel wool again, and we're going to go link by link and just start brushing some of that liver of sulfur off. Now you can spend a long time going over this with steel wool, or you can just gently breeze over it like what I'm doing right here. I want each of these coils to have a dark and a light part to them, and if some of the coils are lighter than others, that's just fine with me. So see, I have the first half of my bracelet already touched with the liver of sulfur and then gently went over with the steel wool. Here's the second half of our bracelet, and if I line both halves of these up, you can see that this side has a little bit more detail to it because you have both the dark and the light, and this side is much more uniform in its color. Now if you want to, and I'm not saying you have to, this is completely up to you, you can go over the back side with your steel wool as well. And so there you have it. This is your bracelet that's now been patinaed with the liver of sulfur. And just for a bit of reference, here's a small section of Egyptian coil bracelet, and this is just the bare copper wire. So here we come to the last segment of our video, disposal. Obviously the first container contains nothing but water, so allow it to cool down and then you can throw it out. Remember, you've had metal sitting in this, so you certainly don't want to keep it for any other uses. So we can set that aside. Our number 3 container just has water and baking soda in it. It's a harmless mixture, but since it's had metal in it, I can't use it for anything more, so I'm just going to pour it out. Here's where our focus lies. This is our liver of sulfur. There's conflicting information out there from various jewelers. Some people seem to think that this is fairly harmless and natural and you can just dump it down the sink. I don't necessarily sign up for that. Rather, what I like to do is neutralize this and allow it to go clear before I dispose of it. Well, how does it go to clear? Aha, baking soda. Simply pour in baking soda until you wind up with this almost milky white appearance. The baking soda is doing its job and neutralizing the acid that is the liver of sulfur. I pour in a generous 2 tablespoons worth, and maybe a little extra, and then mix it with your plastic spoon, and you can see right before our eyes that this material is starting to turn white. So there, I have that all mixed. I can actually feel on the side of the container that it's cooling down, and it's cooled down quite a bit since we were working with it. So now, all I have to do is take the container lid and set it just loosely onto the container itself. You want to make sure that you keep this, of course, out of the way of pets or children or even yourself. If you happen to be a little klutzy like I am, you may accidentally knock this over. So what I like to do is set this underneath the sink or in an away place in the garage where I know I'm not going to see it for a while and it's not going to cause any harm to anybody. The smell is greatly reduced. I have the container closed off for the most part, and now I can allow this to sit for a while until the liquid down here turns clear. After it turns clear, you can pour it down the sink. Nothing to worry about. So that's it. The only thing that you have to look for is just to check on your liver of sulfur mixture that was mixed with baking soda after a couple of days to see whether or not it's turned clear. And like I said before, once it turns clear, you can safely dispose of it and you're set and ready to go. That is our whole video with how to work with liver of sulfur.